The creepiest and most terrifying experience I've ever had was being stalked by a crazy old lady who lived next to me. Sometime last year, I rented an apartment in a decent neighborhood. That wasn't my first time living alone or in a rented apartment, it was my fourth. And in all 3 times of living in different places, I had never had a nosy or creepy neighbor. The creepiness and stalking began about a week after I moved into that apartment. It all started with that small, old, wrinkled lady, always acting very friendly whenever she saw me. For some weird reason, she was always in a good mood whenever she saw me, and she would wave cheerfully at me and grin so widely that I could see all of her teeth. The very first time I noticed that the lady was spying on me was one evening. That evening, I had just returned from work, showered and had dinner, and then I decided to watch a show on TV. While watching TV, I couldn't help but feel that someone was watching me. That's when I realized that my living room curtains were open. The curtains were folded, and that meant that anyone in the old lady's house could see inside my house if I left my lights on. Immediately, I realized that, and I got up from the couch. As I walked to close my curtains, I saw the old lady peeking through her window curtain and looking into my living room. She had a scary grin, and even though she had seen that I saw her, she just stood there and said nothing until I closed the curtains and walked away. The first time it happened, I didn't read any meaning to it. I just assumed that she must have walked to her window and happened to be looking inside my house at the same time I went to close my curtains. It wasn't until I caught her looking inside my apartment again, like I had caught her before, that I began to get worried. As weird as it sounds, every time I saw the old lady watching me, I always had an uncomfortable feeling that I was being watched. And every time, it turned out to be true. Another thing was, from the 3rd time I caught the old lady peeking through her window, whenever she realized that I had caught her in the act, she would start giggling like a child and act excited like she was playing some sort of game. I think it was the 4th or 5th time I caught her that I realized she was actually spying on me. Already, there were too many instances of us stepping out of our houses at the same time, and I knew there weren't coincidences. Now, if it had just ended with the creepy lady always looking inside my house, I wouldn't have been freaked out like I was. I don't know how she did it, but there were 3 instances where she sneaked into my house without my knowledge. The first time she did that, she hid under my bed and waited till I was ready to sleep. If I hadn't heard someone giggling in a hushed voice, I would have gone to bed with that crazy woman still under there. You all have no idea how terrified I was when I saw her curled up under my bed. My heart literally fell into my stomach when I found her there. But because she was so old, I was too embarrassed to call the police on her. Also, apart from her acting weird at times, the lady was perfectly normal and super friendly, so I couldn't bring myself to call the police. Maybe if I did, things wouldn't have escalated to the level they did. That night, after I found her under my bed, I walked her to her house, hoping she wouldn't do something like that again, but I was wrong. Even though I was very conscious of locking my doors, she still managed to get into my house the 2nd time, and this time she hid in my large queen-size wardrobe. Thank goodness she didn't pass out inside there. That evening, I was in my kitchen cooking when I heard my wardrobe door open. Now, this wasn't a wardrobe with weak locks. It was the kind of door that if you shut it once, it wouldn't open unless someone pulled or pushed it. So when I heard the wardrobe door open, I went to check it out. She must have heard my footsteps approaching the room, because I'm so sure I heard the wardrobe door shut close as I got close. To my greatest surprise, when I opened the wardrobe door to see what was wrong with it, I saw the old woman curled in the corner as if she was trying to hide from me. That time around, I was so furious and scared that I ended up pulling her hand and kicking her out of my house. It was so creepy. Because of her, I constantly looked around my house to see if she had snuck in again. I also had to always close my curtains, even when it was so hot inside. Precisely 3 weeks after I had kicked her out of my house, one night, I returned from work quite late, and as soon as I entered my apartment, a very strong stench hit me. The smell was so bad that I could literally taste it. I tried to trace where the smell was coming from, but I couldn't find it. Since I was so exhausted from standing all day at work, I decided to shower before doing anything else. As soon as I got into the shower, I had that strange feeling that someone was watching me, and knowing that each time I felt like someone was watching me, someone was actually watching me, I turned around and looked at the bathroom just to be sure I was alone. Guess what, guys? As soon as I turned around, I saw that annoying, crazy lady in my bathroom. She was so damn close and was literally peeking at me through the shower curtain gap. In all the times I had caught her peeking at me or spying on me, that was the first time I almost jumped out of my skin. It wasn't just that, she had that scary grin, and both of her cheeks were smeared with blood, actual blood. I know this doesn't sound good, but my reaction when I saw her wasn't good. Out of fear and reflex, I screamed and pushed her down, and it was when she fell on her back that I realized she was carrying a dead cat. A white cat, to be precise, and the entirety of its fur was covered in blood. Also, at that moment, it dawned on me that the unbearable stench I'd been perceiving was from the dead cat she carried. Even after I pushed her and ran out of the bathroom, I thought she would give up or just leave my apartment, but she didn't. She opened the bathroom door and came out crawling. That crazy woman was literally crawling, guys, and at the same time, she was giggling and dragging the dead cat with her as she crawled. It was so damn creepy. Out of fear and panic, I threw on a shirt and shorts. I didn't even remember to dry my body. I grabbed my car keys and left in the middle of the night. I ended up staying at a motel, and I couldn't even get myself to sleep because I was so scared. While at the motel, my head kept playing all the possible scenarios of things that could have gone wrong. I couldn't stop asking myself, what if I slipped and fell when I panicked and ran out of the bathroom? What if I pushed the old lady too hard and she smashed her head on the floor? What if she'd chosen to show up with a kitchen knife instead of a dead cat? The questions just kept coming to me. The following morning, after a long night of thinking, I returned to the apartment and packed all of my belongings out of there. Funnily enough, I was expecting her to come out of her house, but she did not. Since that night, I haven't seen that crazy woman again, and I hope I never do. No matter how hard I try, I still can't get the images of cat blood smeared on her cheeks and the dead cat she held out of my head. I hope her new neighbor won't make the same mistake of not calling the police if she decides to get spooky again. Anyway, today makes it exactly a year since that creep showed up in my bathroom with a dead cat, and I'm so glad that I moved out of that apartment when that happened. If I hadn't, I have no idea what stunt she would have tried to pull next.